Squadron leaders reporting.
Admiral, this is
Blue Leader standing by.
This is Gold Leader, standing by.
This is Red Leader, standing by.
Welcome to the Star Wars Post livecast, the official livecast show of the StarWarsPost.com, your Star Wars home for news, reviews, features, and more. The StarWarsPost.com, the galaxy at your fingertips. And here is your host of the Star Wars Post livecast, Max Pallas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Star Wars Post livecast. It's August 2nd, 2018, and this is episode 14. Star Wars Episode 9 cast announced. Tonight, we'll discuss the big casting news and the start of principal photography for Star Wars Episode 9. Got a lot of material to get to tonight, so with that, let's meet this week's panel. He's a writer and contributor to the RebelsReport.com, my good friend Pete.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back again.
And coming to us in the wee hours of the morning from the beautiful Emerald Isle of Ireland, Gary O'Toole. Gary, it's a pleasure to have you back again.
Thank you for having me.
I know. What time is it there now?
It is 2:30 a.m.
Oh, that's not too bad. I've done way less. Nah, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Thanks again for short notice again, Gary, for finding somebody.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, everybody, Liz can't be here today. Liz just recently moved, and she's getting everything in and sorted, and we miss her today. But we'll definitely have her again, hopefully, after her vacation in 2 weeks. So with that, we'll try to get some more guests onto the show. I'm reaching out to a bunch of folks to start getting some people in the fandom. Be nice to have some different faces, right, and hear some different points of view. All right, guys, before we go ahead and dive into the news, just some bit of housekeeping. The Star Wars Post livecast is also now a podcast on iTunes. So please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on iTunes. It makes a big difference for us, and we really hope you guys can go ahead and help us out and leave a nice comment, right? It makes my day feel better when I read it. Also, please don't forget to subscribe and give us a thumbs up on the channel on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter and Facebook at the Star Wars Post. Okay, from the eyes. Big news this week. Not a lot of it, but big news this week, of course, and the biggest was the cast announcement that came out on Friday morning for Star Wars Episode 9. Of course, from principal photography has started as well. But there's some other small stuff too, and I think the other bit of small news is going to be Star Wars Rebels Season 4 Blu-ray has hit the shelves. The Blu-ray loaded with 15 action-packed episodes from the final season, plus exclusive never-before-seen extras. So that's finally out. I don't have my copy yet. Pete, do you have your copy yet, or no?
No, I'm still waiting for my copy. I do have the episodes on Amazon, but I'm still waiting for the Blu-rays to arrive.
Yeah, I know. I definitely want to get back into that again. It seems like forever since it ended, and it wasn't that long ago. It just feels like forever.
Well, they burned off the episodes like 2 at a time, so it went pretty quickly when they did air it. So it feels like it went by really fast.
Yeah, I'm also curious about the extras. I've been hearing good things about the extra content that's on there with Filoni and some of the commentary. So I'm dying to get back into that and kind of recharge that. That would be a lot of fun to get to. So, yeah. With that, guys, I mean, there really isn't much big news, except the big one, of course, is that Star Wars Episode 9 will begin filming at London Pinewood Studios on August 1st, which is a couple days ago, which they started. J.J. Abrams returns to direct the final installment of the Skywalk Saga. Abrams co-wrote the screenplay with Chris Terrio. Returning cast members include Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, Lupita Nyong'o, Donald Gleason, Kelly Marie Tran, Jonas Tsunomato, still can't say his name right, no matter how hard I try, and Billy Lord. Joining the cast for Episode 9 are new people, Naomi Ackie, Richard Grant, and Kerry Russell, who got in at the last second, or even after the official cast announcement came, and I believe Variety picked up the story that she did indeed sign, and then we got a whole new press release, a whole new video from Andy, from the official site, saying that Kerry was indeed, of course she was rumored the week before, that she was signing up for the film. Also joined by veteran Star Wars actors Mark Hamill, Anthony Daniels, Billy D. Williams, who reprises role as Lando Calrissian. So, big announcement. It feels real now. It started, of course. We got our first picture from the set yesterday from J.J. Abrams. So, guys, it's here. How do you feel about it? Anything at all?
I'm excited. I'm glad we're finally getting some definitive news when production's beginning. Getting a little more solid casting news. We've been sitting with some rumors like the Billy D rumor for a while now. It's good to have some solid footing and to hear a couple new names are added to the mix that I'm intrigued to see. I know I've not seen a ton of Richard Grant's work. I didn't watch some of the stuff like that he was in, like Doctor Who and stuff, I guess. But he was in the Game of Thrones this season when Arya was in Bravo, so I got to see a good chunk of him doing that.
I
So
had to
think he's a good
remember
actor.
him. I had to
I
really
had to
think
look
I
it up,
remember.
yeah.
I heard Game of Thrones, and I'm like, I don't remember this guy from Game of Thrones. And of course, I have the graphic here at the bottom showing Richard Grant and Naomi Ackie. And of course, I haven't watched anything from them either. But I really had to search for the Game of Thrones. I'm like, I don't remember this guy from Game of Thrones. Gary, what did you think when you heard the announcement?
Grant was a major surprise for me. He's not somebody we would consider as somebody who you would think of with reference to a Star Wars movie. The biggest thing we would see him in over here is he presents a TV show where he goes around the most luxurious hotels in the world and shows their opulence in his real colourful, in a real colourful way, and his personality really shines through. But he has played some wacky characters, and he is quite a colourful individual. So I would be hoping the character that he will portray will follow suit, but nobody really knows, do they?
You know, I think the thing that makes me comfortable is, and will always make me comfortable, Lucasfilm's greatest talent is picking up people for films. Their casting is just on point for everything. And seeing these two and seeing two new fresh faces, especially Naomi Ackie, who I haven't seen her in anything. But it was nice to see a person of color, right, added to the cast. And that's, for me, that's always a win. And Kerry Russell, of course, coming in, of course, brought up a bunch of controversy. But the biggest thing for me, I think, when I heard the announcement was, where's my Phasma? Where's Gwendolyn? And, of course, I went on a tirade on Twitter, which got Delia Dawson, who wrote the book Phasma. She was like, well, where's she too? And I'm like, she did not die in the fire. I refuse to believe that she died in the fire. I'm not letting that go.
They're saving her for other media, Max. She's going to come back in comics, books, TV. She's going to be all
she'll
over
be
the
in
place.
Resistance, but it's not good enough. Like, I honestly think she is. She really is like the Kenny of South Park for Star Wars, and I hope she does come back for Episode 9. And, if she is supposed to come back in some sort of surprise reveal, I don't know they would mention her here. You know what I mean? But then again, they did mention Mark Hamill, which, of course, is the biggest thing I think everyone gravitated to when it was announced. That, Force Ghost Mark is coming. And, part of me was like, yeah, I guess everyone kind of expected that. But the thing for me is, what if it isn't a Force Ghost? What if it's a flashback? You know what I mean? I have a feeling, I have this gut feeling that JJ might be taking us backward. Just to sort of explain some stuff. You know what I mean? It would make sense that if there's so much that he's got to get through and he really does want to tie up things, especially after probably The Last Jedi, maybe he's like, maybe we should tie up a little bit more. Like, I could see them doing a flashback with Mark. I think that would be great. I mean, we saw it already. We saw the flashback with him at the temple, right? Of course. So in 2 movies, we saw that. Yeah, in 2. He was in The Force Awakens for that quick flashback scene from Rey having her vision, right? Barely, just saw the hand. It wasn't really much more than that. And then, of course, what we saw in The Last Jedi. So those, I think, are the 2 real big ones. Billy D. Williams, well, our friends at Fanta Tracks kind of spoiled that one. real good for them if they were hoping to get a big release from that. Other than that, it's nice to see that the production's underway. I think, like Gary was mentioning before the show, that the rumors are flying. You were saying, Pete?
I was gonna add that the one other one that struck out to me was that Billy Lord got billing with the other stars.
Yeah.
So it sounds like she might be getting a Kinnick's or whatever, might be getting an expanded role in the film.
Hope so. I hope so. Just like in any organization, you get promoted, right? Especially when everyone dies on top of you, right? You kind of move up the ladder pretty quick.
And if we think that Poe's going to be higher up in the Resistance at this point, she was one of the ones that was sort of in his camp, so it would make sense that she'd be like probably his lieutenant.
It makes sense. I could do that. It was nice to see a casting announcement like this. It was all out there, and of course, the best part of the casting was in terms for Carrie Fisher. And Lucasfilm did something I thought really amazing, and I want to applaud them for it, and it's the fact that they talked about how they were going to approach Carrie Fisher and her character, of course, in this next film, because there was a lot of wondering of what exactly would happen. And the role of Leia Organa will once again be played by Carrie Fisher, and this comes from the official site, using previously unreleased footage shot for Star Wars The Force Awakens. We desperately love Carrie Fisher, says Abrams, finding a truly satisfying conclusion to the Skywalker Saga without her eluded us. We were never going to recast or use a CG character. With the support and blessing from her daughter Billy, we have found a way to honor Carrie's legacy as end role as Leia in Episode 9 by using unseen footage we shot together in Episode 7. So, kudos for Lucasfilm for putting this out early, being very descriptive of what they're going to do, because any other person in marketing just not really thinking it through would have just done the basic, 1 inch deep, a mile wide, not saying how they were going to do it or wherever else, and leaving a really big I think everyone would have gone nuts for the next year trying to figure out what the hell they were going to do. So I'm really glad they did it this way. It's very open. It's out of the way. Everyone knows what to expect. The thing for me that I remember is, and maybe you guys can refresh my memory, in episode 7, in the behind-the-scenes reels and some of the documentaries that were set there, Carrie filmed a lot that was never used in 7. And I think one of them was an opening scene at the Resistance base, right? And we also know about the Maz Kanata scene, where Maz is handing her the saber, which, of course, drove us crazy during the run-up of episode 7, right? Trying to figure out what was going on. So, I mean, do you guys remember that? I mean, I think there was a big scene. I know in the book, in the novelization, there was a big scene with Leia in the beginning. Do you guys remember?
I think I remember reading something that one of the major plot points, as you said, regards a flashback, will be closing off that arc of how Maz got Luke's lightsaber, or how they came into possession of Luke's lightsaber, whether that was through Leia to Maz or through another medium. I
had this gut feeling that they're probably, I'm really trying to remember, and I was thinking about it all weekend. I just haven't had time to go through the the extra material for The Force Awakens. But I remember reading someplace that Carrie was really unhappy with her performance with JJ. I mean, she was really criticizing herself, probably well unduly, right, that she was doing. But I think that scene had to do with her in the Resistance base. And I think it all took place there. And I'm wondering if that's the stuff they're going to use. I mean, they could always take out background, right, and just use some of the stuff. But then again, if some weird reason in episode 7, if they go back to Yavin 4, the Resistance base that we see in Takar looks almost the same thing as Yavin 4. You could almost play that off. It really isn't that hard. You know what I mean? So
yeah. And I was seeing there was a lot of back and forth this week on Twitter and different things that I saw. And I know one person was bringing up if you guys remember the rumors of the sledgehammer, like the super weapon that the Resistance was going to have.
Yeah, that's right.
And so there might have been stuff shot with, I don't even know if they even bothered shooting any of that, if any of that made it that far. But I know Mike Ryan, who's a writer over at Upper Rocks, was talking about there's a scene at the beginning of the film where Leia was actually on Hosnian Prime, the capital system that got blown up, and she was giving him a speech asking for resources for the Resistance.
That would really fit.
Sounding very much like the sort of the Padme move in episode 1, where she's going back to the Senate and asking for help before the action all kicks off. And given where we ended episode 8 with Leia, them sending out the broadcast under Leia's code and stuff, it would make sense if there was a similar message that could be sort of recycled and sort of edited a little bit to serve the same purpose later on. So I can see them recycling that if that's the footage they're using.
That could really work. I mean, that could really work, because that jives completely at the end of The Last Jedi. She's reaching out for help, gives a speech, something right back to Star Trek, and there has to be assassination or some kind of a bombing, and she's taken out, right? And if they have footage of her giving a speech, that's the stuff you definitely want to use, because it matches what we have for The Last Jedi. ILM could do anything. You know what I mean? If they really have to, they could do anything, and as long as you know the dialogue, you can work around it via story. And this is the best way possible. I mean, that they could have handled, the death of Carrie and give her a proper send-off for this whole thing. Like, I couldn't think of a better option.
I think of another way that could tie in nicely to echo the sentiments of what Peter's saying is if they have that scene where Leia goes back to Hosnian Prime asking for assistance, they could somewhat perhaps tie that in with why Black Squadron weren't around. Could they be off, maybe perhaps collecting resources or other senior officers who were not present on the base?
Yeah, and
so
of course
it could be another potential avenue.
Yeah,
the thought
go ahead, Pete.
Sorry, I was just gonna say the thought I had just when I was my mind was sort of racing with this was if they had the speech of her asking for help, they could tie it even back to A New Hope, and the guys from Black Squadron and other folks could be going around to different groups with a hologram of Leia, and we could get the same speech, different segments of it throughout the movie.
Sure.
So she could sort of live throughout the movie as the Resistance is building up its strength or gathering resources.
That would be a beautiful way to do it, to get a little bit of Leia throughout the whole film in a way that's poignant, that makes, that really hits home. And she's always sort of been the voice anyway of Star Wars, the call, to arms and everything else, and to hear that across. I'm just happy they shot a bunch of footage, and I'm happy it didn't work out with The Force Awakens. That's why it's good to take a whole bunch. And a lot got cut from 7. We saw the classic scene that we saw in the trailers where, JJ, we know now, changed things. That saber was supposed to come flying out of the sky with Luke's hand into some tribal planet. I mean, that was the initial spoiler that got out. I think Birth Death Movies got that first scoop, and it was right. And JJ changed the film because it got out. I think that was the first concrete evidence we got that spoiler ended up changing the film. And we've never heard anything or had anything solid, but it drove us crazy in the 2015 and 2014, 2015, trying to figure all that out. And of course, when the trailer came out with Maz handing her the saber at Maz's castle in the basement, because that's where she did it. Of course, that's not in the movie at all, right? She comes later. So it's going to be interesting to see what I remember. If I remember at the novelization in the beginning, or it might have been a short story in another one of the books, maybe from Rucka, then that's probably where it's probably one of the Journey to Force Awakens books that I'm reading, that Leia was sitting either at Dakar, either with her droid. It was either that or it was a novelization, and I can't remember. And I have a feeling that was the scene that was filmed.
Target?
Now it's going to drive me crazy, and I'm going to have to find out to see what it was. But I remember that it's going to be interesting for me this week, and that's kind of my homework, to go back to the behind the scenes, look at some of the documentary stuff, and see what kind of footage really could they have pulled from, or what scene did they pull from. But of course, they're going to keep mum, and they're not going to let on to that or what it was. But it's great. I think I'm surprised there's not more of a casting announcement in terms of more characters. I mean, we only really got 2 more, right? Nothing really more than that. Which is, I guess this is going to get really chummy. There's not going to be a whole lot of new principal characters coming in, which probably in the last part of a trilogy, you probably don't want to do that anyway. You want to kind of focus on your core characters and finish out their arcs and get everything done. So
I think it's very much going to be a feeling and nostalgia for Episode 9. With Lando coming back being, I suppose, our last link to what has come before. But I think another thing that's coming in with respect to anybody who's read Last Shot was that Lando is in fact probably the last character with a relationship to Han and Leia.
Yeah.
Could he almost be that bridge character?
He is. No, he has to be. I mean, that's the way you would have to use him. I think everyone kind of has their own mind of how this whole thing is probably going to wrap up to a certain extent. Right, and the thing I always tell myself is, if I'm the director and I'm sitting there writing it, are you gonna do what Rian Johnson does? I'm not gonna do what everyone's expecting me to do. Right, and it's like, so I think this run-up year is going to be really interesting. I really hope we get just a little bit of the nostalgia that we got in the run-up to The Force Awakens. That was a really fun year, and I hope J.J. Abrams does a little bit more in the same light that Ron Howard did. Right, with his production cast, and just releasing a lot of great pictures, showing us the joy of everybody working on the set, and seeing some nice things. He did that first. I think he finally did his first picture on Twitter. Right, the guy's had a Twitter account forever, never posted anything up until 2 days ago with the start of our principal photography. And I think actually we do have the image of that too. Here, let's bring that up for everyone else in case if someone actually didn't see this, which I thought would be impossible. Of course, it doesn't show much, but it's better than a clapperboard. Right? So what did you guys think? Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
I was just going to say, with respect to the nostalgia, do you think Harrison would come back and do some flashback stuff, maybe with Adam?
Wow, to get Harrison Ford in a commitment to come back. Yeah, if anybody could do it, JJ can do it. Right? And I think Harrison wouldn't mind reprising his role for a flashback. I think it makes sense. I mean, if you're going to really, and this is probably the key point, I think, of the press release, is that, and the thing that stuck home, I think, for everybody is that this is the end of the Skywalker saga, right? Ben is a Skywalker. Everybody keeps forgetting that. And I'm really wondering, this whole trilogy was supposed to be about Rey and Rey's journey. And I think what's kind of probably happening here is something similar to happen to Rebels, where all of a sudden Kanan becomes the head story and not Ezra. And I'm really wondering here now if Kylo is really the head story and not Rey, because he's the Skywalker. Right? And everyone seems to forget that. Everyone just seems to think Rey. I think Rey, of course, is the principal character. Everything should revolve around her. But Kylo, and it really has to do with the performance of Adam Driver. And we see this in movies where one actor will just star and just shine above everybody else that nobody expects. And Oscar Isaac did that in The Force Awakens. Oscar Isaac blew everybody away compared to everybody else. I mean, that's the first thing I remember that everyone talked about at The Force Awakens. And if you're going to close out Kylo's story, yeah, flashback would be nice with Harrison Ford. Will it happen? Doubtful. Could. Right? We definitely wouldn't hear about it in casting announcements. Right? And
like
Harrison
Frank Oz.
Yeah, exactly. It's something that I think, and I think the same thing goes for Gwendolyn Christie. I think it happens. There's going to be a lot of hint stuff that's not going to get in the cast announcement. Don't smile, peek us out. It's going to happen. She's not dead.
No. I was just thinking that the big one that everybody's talking about seems like is Hayden. Whether they're going to have Hayden come back and do a Force Ghost thing. You
know, I wanted that since The Force Awakens. I think Hayden should come back to do it. But the question I have is this, though. If and this is not to shit on that parade. It isn't. Because I would love to see Hayden come back. But the thing I come back to is if Anakin Skywalker's coming back, why wouldn't he do it to Ben a long time ago? Hey man, don't do this. Stop doing this. You're doing the wrong thing. And now he's going to do it? It doesn't kind of jive. But I mean, I don't know how you would write it for story. How would you write that, Pete? If you were bringing it back?
It'd be tough because it wouldn't make sense with him interacting with Rey, really. There's no connection there.
Yeah.
So the only real connection is you bring him back with Luke to talk to Ben. Like, you can say Anakin was a Force ghost, but he was still dealing with some stuff. So he wasn't really... He was deep in the Force trying to deal with what he's done in the past. And when the son joined him in there, maybe he reemerged or something. Or basically the way I'd probably use him would be just to leave it until like the last shot of the film, very much like Jedi, and just have like whatever resolves, have like Luke and Anakin, and I'd even have Leia show up as a Force ghost at that point. I just have the sort of Skywalker end note.
That would make a perfect, of course, that would make a perfect end to this trilogy in the Skywalker Saga, is literally to have everybody show up at the end.
Yeah.
I seeing Hayden though as a Force ghost, but something in like this psychotic kind of vision that's just messed up sort of all over the place. I could see that happening. Like, we saw
the
Force Awakens
art concept for Force Awakens, the art concept in the book.
Yeah, that picture is one of my favorites. Right, it is. And one of the, I think it's a way, we saw in The Force Awakens, but it was done via audio, right? We had Obi-Wan Kenobi reaching out to Rey. We had Yoda reaching out to Rey. And I wonder if you could do sort of the same concept where Rey is sort of in this haze, but it's visual with actual Force ghosts. Do something similar to that where, with her flashbacks, we saw these very clear crystal images, quick cascading, maybe doing a Hayden shot there. And then, of course, at the end would be nice. I would love to see Hayden. I would love to see Hayden come back, period. I would love to see him do more Star Wars as Vader, because he really is Vader. I mean, after all these years, of course, what we saw in Celebration, we were all, Gary was there. I was there. It was great to see him come out on stage, and how much, the fandom really missed him, and how much he appreciated the fandom coming around and like really praising him. I would love to see him come back. I would. But I hope Luke coming back as a Force ghost for me is kind of like, is he coming back in the way of Obi-Wan, where he's going to sit down and have a chat with Rey? Or is he going to be a pain in the ass to Kylo? You know what I mean? What do you guys think?
I just hope he's not dead.
Well, you can bring Mark Hamill, just have him sit there. Oh, if they brought him back just to lay down on the floor and not do anything, Mark would then be like, "That's it. I'm done with this franchise." Is that all you?
The hand never hit the floor when he evaporated.
That should have happened.
I'm holding on to that.
That should have happened for comedic effect.
I think you have to use him with Kylo because of the line in The Last Jedi where he says, "You see you around, kid." I think that has to be paid off, and I think they will.
I don't. For me, I kind of rub like, if a good guy Force ghost can come back and just talk to people at will, right? Maybe, it wouldn't have made sense for Obi-Wan to do that with Vader, right? That would have just been awkward. Like, he's so far gone, why bother? So that makes sense. But at the same token, like, him talking to Rey, I could see that, because Rey still needs training, right? And that's Obi-Wan, that's what he did for Luke, right? He kind of, but Of course
But Yoda said that she has all she needs. She doesn't need them any longer.
True.
She has the texts.
Yeah.
He has the text. I kidded around on Twitter. I said, like, I really want to see, like, Force Ghost Jocasta Nu come back and bother Rey to say those texts are expired. They need to come back. They're overdue at the library. Like, that's who I want to see come back. Somebody angry, pissed off librarian.
I want to see that scene I talked to you about. Remember from from one of the comics or one of the EU novels with Vader standing over
Oh yeah,
Padme's tomb. I would love to see Ben stand over Leia's tomb.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of envious of J.J. Abrams. I mean, usually the third movie in a trilogy is not the one you want. You want the second one or the first one. You don't really want the third one. But I really think he has an opportunity here. He has some really great things that he can do to end. Because I mean, this really, if it's going to be the end of the Skywalker Saga. And that's what got everyone kind of bummed out a little bit, as everyone was happy. Like, this thing is going to wrap up. And it's like, wow, how are we going to wrap? I mean, we were comfortable when Luke did it, but now it's got to happen all over again. And it's going to be interesting to see how, if he doesn't take these little and the thing is, I worry about, JJ has a habit of, I need to make a movie as quick as I can make it, as short as it can be in duration. He's not one of these guys that are like, I'm going to do a nice, long, 2.5 hour Rian Johnson film. I'm like, he's done in an hour and a half, he's out the door. You know what I mean? And I hope this time that's like, no, man, you know what? Take an extra half an hour and do these little things. That will mean so much to everybody. Like Kylo sitting over Leia's grave. Like, you know, maybe a flashback with Harrison Ford picking up a young Ben. Right? And it's these little tiny things that don't really matter much to the story, but it brings on the music. It gives John Williams a chance to really, you know what I mean, do some great pieces that they don't matter to the story, but they just make you feel. And that's what I want. That's the biggest expectation I think I have for JJ, is to slow down a little bit and give John Williams time to do a score that makes people feel. Because that's how John Williams movies work. If you don't give him time to do these beautiful little bits that don't really matter, like a kid, you know, riding a bicycle across the moon, or a chase that takes forever in LA or wherever he was living, right in Southern California. If you don't give him time to write these really, or just, you know, Han Solo doing these nice little loop-de-loops in the middle of an asteroid field. If you don't give Williams time to do these, you know, really lovely melodies, then nobody feels. And that's what all Star Wars movies are. They're about feeling. So
does JJ have to jump on the fact that Adam's performance in 8 just was levels above everyone else? Does he have to continue on that crest of a wave and push him even further?
You know, it's kind of like, I want to be fair, right? I want to say, no, Kylo Ren got his shot in movie 2. Adam Driver owned it. He just blew everybody away. Let Rey have this last movie, because it really is supposed to be about Rey. But then again, I'm like the movie mogul. You go with what's hot, baby. People want to see him finish out his thing. You know, because what if a sudden he goes quiet now? That won't feel right. What do you think?
Yeah. I low-key think that he dominated in the first movie as well. So I think I'm a big fan, and I'm just really excited to see what Adam Driver does with this. And I hope I really loved The Last Jedi, except for the very end with Kylo, where Ryan had him go just sort of lose his mind, because I wanted a little bit more control from Driver's performance. A little less sort of manic, but I'm excited to see where he takes it in Episode 9. I just love him as an actor. I never watched, like, except for seeing little stuff that he was in. I didn't watch like Girls or anything, so I'm not that familiar with him. But I'm just like, wow, he's really good.
He's a fantastic, and JJ is always sung praises. I think one of the biggest things I'm looking forward to seeing, like, and as the production is going to roll out in the next couple months, and all this principal photography is, I have like my standard sheet of things to look for, and one of the things I'm gonna look for is what does Adam Driver say about the script, right? In Force Awakens, he was like, yeah, it's a good script, you know, it's great, whatever. When Rian Johnson came out with this movie, he's like, oh, this is a fantastic script, I love this script. Now I'm gonna see what is he gonna say about J.J. Abrams and what he wrote, right? That's usually my barometer for him.
What do you guys think of Terrio, the screenwriter here? I haven't seen Argo. I keep meaning to see it, but I just haven't sit down to watch it. But he also did Batman versus Superman and Justice League. So how do we feel about the writing creds coming into this one?
I can't comment on anything DC.
Arlo is a fantastic film. It's written, but those two kind of things don't correlate. Like not even the mood, because it's a very serious film, and I love that film. It's a fantastic film, and the writing in it is fantastic. The dialogue is very believable. It just, but JJ has a huge hand in the writing. Terry, I think, is there probably for beats and to see how it fits. And some of the dialogue that's even in Justice League is there's some good moments there. I mean, of course, the films we have our moments, but there are some great one-liners in there. That sort of said, I've watched it recently again, and actually, even though I'm not a huge fan, even ridiculous of these movies, especially DC, but there was sometimes I was taken aback with some of the character lines that were poignant. But that's the thing about Star Wars. These guys bring their A game. They have to. No matter who you are, you have to bring your A game. This is the big leagues. This is the real big leagues, even more than DC and Marvel. This is the big deal, and it's especially to round off the Skywalker Saga. Oh yeah. You're doing late nights, lots of cups of coffee, and beating your head against the wall to find something that really feels and makes sense. And, I really wonder how much is going to be kept with Trevorrow and what he done and what treatments he made, if any. Right? This is going to, exactly. So this is ending. Go ahead, Pete.
I haven't sat down to look at the timeline, but they got Trevorrow left early enough that they've had a lot more time to work on this script than what JJ and Kasdan had to work on. The Force Awakens. So it's not the same sort of rush. We got to get something done so we can start filming.
Well, yeah, I mean, I really hope, and I can't wait to hear about the making of how they wrote this, because I got two covering these two movies for the Post. I got these really great, and for me, it's about making of the movie that matters a lot to me. I got these two great stories about how this story came to be, and with the Force Awakens, it was those great stories about him and Kasdan walking. Taking long walks wherever they were. If it was in LA, whether it was in Paris, they would walk with tape recorders and just from their iPhone and just talk and record what they wanted for the story right before they put pen to paper. And I love that kind of approach, right? It's this detached from everything. Let's walk around real people and let's come up with something that works. And then for Rian Johnson was him going to the ranch early, like living a month there and just diving himself and sending great pictures on Instagram and Twitter with stacks of those moleskin books, right, that he was writing and working on. And I can't wait to see how JJ does it with Terry and to see exactly how they come about for that. Right, because we don't get the making of books anymore. So for me, it's these little bits and pieces when they start talking about the film and how they came approaching to it. They can go a lot. They can close this off in a lot of different ways, or maybe not at all. There's still the possibility here that this war doesn't end, that they leave it open ended, probably for more films. The Resistance animation show, and it could be even the live action show, which is rumored supposedly to be taking place around this Resistance area. So we might not be closing out the war, just these characters, which makes things a little bit easier.
That makes the most sense to me, actually. Unless they're doing a significant time jump, the idea that they're going to wrap up the character story as well as the Resistance retaking the galaxy from the First Order, that seems like an awful lot to try to fit into the movie.
Yeah.
So I would almost bet that we deal with sort of a situation where they may have defeated a significant portion of the First Order's maybe capital strength wherever they're basing. If they found like a permanent home, they might take out Kylo and Hux and all those guys. But it doesn't seem like they would have retaken the galaxy. I don't see how they get there story wise from where they are right now.
Yeah, because
I think.
Go ahead, Gary.
I was just going to say, I think two of the biggest queries I have regards this movie is what are they going to do regards to tonality of the movie? With JJ, he said it would be, I suppose, an uplifting story, a story of a nobody who became a somebody. And then with the next one, Ryan saying that it was, a bit darker in tonality with some comedic interludes in between. I can't even hazard a guess at what the tonality of this movie will it be. Will it be even darker? Will it be lighter? Will it be an amalgamation of the other two? But another thing that really strikes me is that by the end of TLJ, we know that Luke feared both Kylo and Rey. At some point, they are going to have to show us their full potential. They are going to have to show us their full power. And whether that's one-on-one in a duel or in maybe other sequences coming through the movie, that finally needs to be revealed. Why was Luke Skywalker, a Grandmaster, absolutely terrified of these two young, uncontrolled, raw Force users?
Yeah, and for me, we're going to be following this thing like crazy in the year. We're going to try to piece it apart. We're going to try to follow spoilers and figure it all out, right? And step one is, how far into the future does this film start? We're not going to do the next day. I really hope there's time between The Last Jedi and this end for episode 9. I really hope there's almost like a 4-year gap, because that gives time for Kylo. Because if I'm Kylo, and I know the dark side of the Force is the only chance I have to beat Rey and try to get things, where does he go? What does he do for 4 years besides just, what, he's just going to be an emperor and just, an administrative, bureaucratic person? No, of course not. This is Kylo Ren. So, of course, he's probably going to go and just take over the galaxy, but does he want to get darker within, does he go back to Vader's castle? We've always heard rumors of that, right? Like that might be coming back around. We heard, now there's been rumors, of course, or just fans tossing out rumors that Rey is probably going to seek out, of course, Jedi stuff. And for that, and there was rumored coming back to the planet in Rogue One that was partially destroyed by the Empire during their first test of the Death Star. I forget the name of the planet, just escaping me.
Jeddah.
For Jeddah, yeah. Right? Which we've seen in the comics, and we've seen this kind of awareness to this planet, right? She may go there. And so I think kind of circling back and getting all this stuff to see what they do in 4 years. To me, because there's a lot there that you can do. I mean, that's where the opening crawl gets its magic. Is because, it's been 3-4 years. That's where we're going to find out who's been doing what, where things are. And it gives, I think, time for this rebellion to get some money, to get some friends, and to start, really going after the First Order. But as the story acts go, I mean, this is tried and true. The first one is you get introduced to characters, bad things happen. And in the second movie, everything goes wrong for our heroes. And just when you think they couldn't get worse, it gets worse still. And then it gets worse again. And just when you think it really can't get worse, it gets worse even more. And then, of course, the third movie is the arc back. So as tonality goes, maybe darker, but at the same time, it's got to end on a high note. It's got to end. I mean, that's how all stories end. Unless, you're living in Japan. Then all movies end up drastically horrible, which I love. Like, the good guys don't win. Everything is just destroyed. But I think that's going to round out. How that's all going to work out, who knows? We'll find that out. But, as in terms of, but it's great to see how, and that's the picture that he released. That was the kind of thing I thought about when the picture got released from JJ this week about the production. Here's our cast of characters all sitting on the Falcon, right? Pretty much from what we can tell. Wow, does that sound like 4 years has gone by? You know what I mean? Or has it just been like a few months or a year? And it's kind of like, because usually people are separated for 4 years. They're sort of separated. They're not really hanging out and powwowing together.
Well, we can start the new hair watch, because it looks like in the John Boyega released some Instagram videos to think of him working out where he's got longer hair.
He got big.
So he got big, and so it looks like he's gonna have his hair grown out. So there's gonna be at least some time gap. It's not gonna be like the next day.
His Instagram picture, man, he got swole. Homeboy put on a
was that mostly for
serious
Pacific
ton.
Rim, though?
Maybe perhaps, but he put on some. But he's put on. I mean, just as a person, he put on some serious lean muscle mass in like the last year. Homeboy's gonna be huge.
Imagine how big Driver's going to be.
That's why I'm really hoping Phasma comes back, because now he's like all beef caked up. Like, let's do this, But yeah, it just and just because we saw that first shot of everybody sitting in the Falcon doesn't mean that that's the first act of the film. Remember, filming doesn't necessarily go from start to finish in order. Sometimes they do skip around depending on what's easier to get done first. He tends to shoot mixed up. I think for The Force Awakens, though, JJ did shoot in order. So, maybe it doesn't start off that way, from the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, it could be crazy, and that could be the happy ending, them leaving on the Falcon, the main crew just taking off.
Could be.
There's no way to know at this point, basically.
There is none. And, of course, I think Gary had some great insight into the picture, I think, before we went live. So what did you notice, Gary, about the picture, at least the people that were rumored about?
I didn't notice. Somebody else pointed it out that they did, looked at it through an analysis software, and it looks like there is a porg on the desk.
Gotta sell them porgs. And like you said, it would make sense that they were nested in the Falcon in The Last Jedi, so maybe Chewie's kept on to a couple of them. Why get rid of them so fast? They've been probably the most iconic thing, in the new trilogy next to BB-8. There really isn't anything as iconic as the Borg, right? So far as this new trilogy. But it's funny when a shot comes like this, everyone's dropping it into Photoshop, changing the visual levels, to see whatever they could see in the background. To me, it just looked like Indiana Jones sitting in the chair, and that's what I tweeted out. It's Harrison Ford playing
Everyone was talking about the vest.
And
the vest.
It looks just like it. So I was just like, guys, this is clearly Harrison Ford dressing up as Indiana Jones sitting in the Falcon. This isn't hard. And everyone, of course, everyone was like, Max, are you high? I'm like, no. That's just what I see. But I love shots like this. Rian Johnson, I like when he did it, but the part that used to burn me, that he used that old black and white camera that was really grainy, and you couldn't make out anything. This, I like, it's fast, it's in color. I see the lighting on the set. That's what I want to see.
It'll be interesting because last time around, JJ, it was just like little hand notes on the generic table.
Yeah.
But the most of the stuff we saw was from the Force for Change campaign, little videos.
That's
so I'm curious if we're going to get that again. Yeah.
That's only where we saw it. We didn't see anything from him. I mean, it's the usual cast of characters are going to come out with spoilers, right? That we're expected this year. Hopefully, we get a couple of our own. But no, we will find stuff as they go on. And for me, it's just I'm hoping we get a little bit of everything, and that's all I'm asking for. Couple new ships, couple new characters that are memorable, right? Tying things up. I want to see J.J. Abrams tie something up. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Lost, and of course, he didn't have complete creative control of Lost, but it's like I want to see things wrapped up. I do. And not just to check off boxes, but just because I want to see them wrapped up for once. And I want to see a lot of visuals, and I want him to take time. For God's sakes, man, if Kathy Kennedy allows Rian Johnson to do a 2.5-hour film, then do a 2.5-hour film. You know what I mean? Jam-pack that sucker with what you want. And especially with Luke. Luke Skywalker, J.J. Abrams' biggest fan is Luke Skywalker. That's what he always said. And he never got a chance to use him. Right? At all. And now that you have him, hell yeah, I'm going to use him. I'm going to use him as often as I like because I'm never going to have this opportunity again. Ever. You know what I mean? So if I'm J.J. Abrams, heck yeah, I'm bringing Mark Hamill back. Like, that's not even a question. Like, he's coming back. But I really hope he does a lot. I want to see a little bit of fan service. Normally, I'm not like that. I'm like, surface the story. Don't give us anything else. No, I want fan service. If you're going to end the Skywalker Saga, I want some great visuals. I want some great memories. I want you to take the time and give me a 3-hour film. I don't care.
Yeah.
And
I will say from the announcement, the casting announcement, he did say they were trying to find a truly satisfying conclusion for the saga. So,
that sounds tough.
It makes it sound like they're at least going to wrap up some of the big stuff, So if that's what he's going for, I'm not really worried about them delivering a short movie. So I don't think you have much to worry about in that department. Because what did TFA come in? That was over 2 hours.
It was 2 hours, I think, just under 2 hours, and Rian Johnson took that extra half hour. And even Rian Johnson packed so much in there, it didn't feel like a 2.5-hour film. It felt like a 2-hour film. I mean, it went probably pretty quick at a decent pace. I don't think there was ever a point in Last Jedi where like, oh, get going. You know what I mean? that didn't exist. At least for me, it didn't. So Pete's smirking. It did for you, Pete? Really?
Well, I mean, they could have done they could have cut some of the Canto Bite stuff. Could have moved that along a little quicker.
Ooh, you hater!
Careful,
you Star Wars anti-Kathy Kennedy hater.
Exactly. I think that's me. You know it.
Everyone's putting everybody in buckets now. You don't want Canto Bite, therefore you should be removed, sir. Like you are no longer a fan. No, I mean I like Canto Bite, but it's just like I want him to take time. Take time, man. Enjoy it. Because this might be his last Star Wars film, too. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a big
Canto Bite would have been perfect for Lando.
Yeah, would have.
Fighting away on a desolate gambling planet.
There's just, you could write so many great stories from a casino. You know what I mean? So it's just like, the Bond films is one that really stands out for me. That they can do. But it doesn't have to be a lot of worlds. Honestly, I hope they go back to Yavin 4. Right? Give me something nostalgic. Give me something new. Give me a couple characters that are new. Give me a couple vehicles that are new that kids might really want to have toys to play with, right? That look really, really fun. And I hate to say this, almost kind of do it from a toy perspective first. You know what I mean? Even though that's nice, we have a vehicle, it has to have a purpose in the story. Give kids something really cool to play with. And end the saga off right. And I mean, and if he does end it right, where everyone is standing and clapping and crying at the end of the movie that this is over, this will make J.J. Abrams' career more than any other film that he's done. Because we could all look back on his films and go, yeah, he did that, I like that, I like this, I like that. But nothing has ever stood out for J.J. where everybody goes, oh my God. Except The Force Awakens. This could be really it for him. And I'm hoping if he was so scared doing The Force Awakens and how people were going to accept it, because that was some real pressure. Being the first one out of the gate is not easy. But ending it is not as easy either. But I think he's got a lot of confidence behind him that he can do it, and he's eager to do it. But
does he have to answer Rey's parents' question? Does he have to do that to bring a
I
full
think he does.
conclusion, if you like?
I think he will. It's because if you look at just regular folks, that's all the question that anybody ever asks. You just can't leave that hanging in the wind. It's got to be answered somehow. It doesn't have to be anybody great. They could be just, regular folks in Jakku buried in a pauper's grave. But you got to close that out.
Richard E. Grant.
Yeah, but, or Kerry Russell. Or it just, you have to end it. And I don't think it has to be anything big. In fact, I think it's probably safer that it isn't anybody big. But maybe Rey finds her parents. That could be more rewarding. If they're nobodies, but she finds them, that could be more rewarding than anything. And they're just regular nobodies, but she finds them again. That could be big, right? I mean, that would be a great ending for her story because that's all she ultimately cares about is finding her parents. That closes out her arc. Do you need it? Well, but you don't need it. But it's nice to have, Pete. It's a nice to have.
It's nice, but I don't think it for her, so just going back to how I view Star Wars through going back to Lucas and everything.
Sure.
One of the profound events of his life was adoption. And I don't think that you need to go back to her birth parents, to the parents that gave her up, abandoned her, to complete her arc. I think the entire message of Maz to her in The Force Awakens was the family you choose is your family. You need to find the people that you belong with. And I don't think she needs to go back and find her parents. I think the sort of the choice that she's presented with by Kylo in The Last Jedi to learn more about her parents, he tells her, but it's possible he knows more than he's telling her even when we see it. It's very much like the Harry Potter scene where he's looking into the mirror. Mm-hmm. And whether or not that is something she should be dwelling on, I don't think she needs to dwell that to resolve her character. I think she is set to go forward.
No,
and
and let me clarify what I mean by that. I don't expect her 9 to be that's her main focus. I'm just saying it's one of those things at the very end. You know what I mean? Where it's almost kind of like a montage thing. After the story's done, after she's completed and done everything she does, it's almost kind of like the end of the Lords of the Ring, right? It happens to find them. You know what I mean? And it's not even something spoken. It's probably done some sort of musical montage and it just ends. You know what I mean? Something just poignant like that she finds home. But but that's true though. She does. Well, we've all agreed for this for years. She doesn't need to have her parents who they are. They don't need to have them be famous or somebody of note. Or they could just be somebody that they died, just like Kylo said they did. But do I think JJ is going to answer that question? Wrap it up? Yeah. That's my guess. That's where I'm putting my bets down. He'll do that. Because JJ, he can't help himself. That's his. And everyone's thinking, oh, well, Ryan kind of screwed him up. No, I think Ryan probably lived to his wishes. I think JJ told him, no, that's mine. I'm going to end that. I don't want you to end it. I don't want you to answer it. I'm going to answer that. And that's good.
I mean, JJ was the executive producer. He knew what was going on from the very beginning. So,
yeah. And I wonder now, what if Trevorrow was still the director of this film? How would you guys be feeling about Episode 9?
When he was announced, I was devastated. We were actually sitting in Florida and we were talking to fans on the bus and they were like, I can't believe he's directing this. Remember his film then was it the week before, absolutely flopped. The week before he was released.
Regarding Henry? His film Regarding
Henry? Was that the one? Yeah, it absolutely bombed. And then when we were actually sitting on the bus, the breaking alert came through that he had been sacked, and the relief was just so overwhelming.
When I wrote the story and when he was announced, there was not good, and people did not like it. I mean, Jurassic Park had just come out, and it did well commercially.
I enjoyed Safety Not Guaranteed. I didn't love it. I didn't think it was the greatest movie ever made, but I thought it was a good enough movie. Jurassic World, I enjoyed. I don't think it was as good as it could have been or should have been. But of course, a lot of the Jurassic Park sequels didn't really do that well. I think it was probably a good choice to go back to JJ. I'm confident that he can actually deliver a high quality film. But I'm just interested to see where he goes, because there's so many stuff. Like, I don't know if he's going to go back and play with some of the stuff that he dealt with that Ryan wasn't really interested with. Like, are we going to get more resolution on the Knights of Ren? Yeah. Are they going to come back in any way in the movie? That's something that I would like to see, just because I really enjoyed those character designs. I think that's a really cool concept. I want to know more about that sort of mythology. But I'm not sure if we're going to dig back into that at all either.
You know, I love Caston's quote about those guys, and he's like, I care about those guys. Like, because, Caston's like, we just did the high level stuff for him. And someone asks, what would you like to see in future films? Like, I want to see the Knights of Ren. Those are the guys I want to know about. And it's great to see a writer who created these guys, who hasn't had any time to invest in them because they're not needed for the current story. But he's like, I want to get back to those guys. Right? That's right up there with like Desperado and like, Bandits and like Billy the Kid and that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Just the way they look and the way they, especially in the concept art. Yeah, I hope we get him in 9. I think there's gonna be a lot of circling back. I do. I really do. Because I think
redemption arc.
Well, there was one of the things that there is no redemption. I think if they redeem Kylo,
make him work for it.
No, but that's the thing. If they did it, if that's truly their angle for redemption, it would be such a hollow and last minute, thing that won't really matter much. Killing your dad pretty much puts you in a different category that redemption doesn't apply to you. And I love how, Rian Johnson, that's the favorite thing I love about The Last Jedi. I love how Kylo approaches Luke with that whole redemption. What, you're going to tell me? You're going to say you're sorry? Like, how many times do I have to tell you I'm a bad person? I am a monster. He tells that to Rey. How many? And of course, people, well, there's Reylo. She's going to fall in love with him. Like, oh, well, what part of this? You're not listening. The guy is evil. He chooses to be evil. It was hard for him to be evil, but he succeeded. He killed his dad. And he tells that to Snoke. I killed him. You know what I mean? There is nothing worse than that. Oh, sure, he still feels conflicted about it. Who doesn't? But he did it anyway. And then he promptly went out to go after his mom. Now, he didn't shoot her. Somebody else did. But, and that's the kind of thing that sometimes redemption goes too far. Sometimes you're just so far gone that there is no redemption. And I think and I really think that is a lesson that should be taught, even for kids, that you can be a person that does so bad that even redemption might not come. That some people out there really are just bad. And you have to really understand that and prepare for that. It doesn't mean you hate them. It doesn't mean you don't try to reach out to them. But sometimes you can go so far back that you don't come back. How that works, because, do you really kind of want that Vader ending for Kylo? No. Kylo is pointing his finger out the window. Shoot that thing out of the sky. He is furious. And I don't see that. Vader had time to come around. He had 20, 30 years.
The only way that I could see it working, and something that I went back and looked, there's a story out of the Tales of the Jedi comic books from Legends where Ulic Queldroma sort of tries to redeem himself. But he ends up basically in isolation on this like snowy planet all by himself in misery until someone shows up and he trains like a new apprentice. And I could see a situation where Ben's story ends with him basically miserable and alone and just sort of, unlike Vader, who died without having to deal with the consequences of his actions in life, Ben being just sort of stuck, miserable, and having to try to find a way to atone for what he's done, but not actually ever finding that or not being satisfied with the path that he's taking at the end of the movie.
And that's the greatest punishment. I've always believed that's the greatest punishment. It's just being left alone to your own devices to suffer and just empty. And I don't see him, I think redemption fails Kylo. They develop this really guy who wants to be the powerful evil, and he knows it. You know what I mean? It's almost kind of like having Hitler turn around and go, oh, let me go save somebody's life. It doesn't work. You know what I mean? It doesn't fit. And it takes away this raw anger that Kylo has, and I think he's going to get worse. It's my hope, that they make Kylo into this really badass, manic, Sith kind of looking guy. Like, he doesn't look all nice with glorious hair. He's got the yellow eyes. he's got that sort of, raked look that just, he looks like you will not want to even, if you saw him on the street, you'd go running in the opposite way. And that's what I hope he just really, because we saw that with Snoke, right? The dark side kind of deforms you. It changes your appearance, and if you really delve in, I hope that he goes down that route.
And they've set it up where there's a very easy storytelling scenario where he could sort of go in that direction and become a little unhinged and basically be obsessed with what they've already set up with finding relics, dealing with his grandfather. Like, he could be, instead of managing the Empire, the new Empire like he should, he could be trying to find all the Sith stuff to make himself more powerful, to fill the hole inside.
Yeah, and I mean, that's I mean, who are we kidding? It's like Rogue One. Him going to Vader's castle on Mustafar? Yeah, you gotta go there. You know what I mean? We saw that in Rogue One where they didn't have to do it. And they're just getting everybody, everyone's lips wet going, this place exists. You know what I mean? So get ready to see it again in the future. And there was a lot of hinting that this would come back. And it's got to come back. And seeing Kylo there Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
I was just saying, speaking of him going back to the castle, I would love to see Kylo Ren sort of Rogue One-esque Vader at the end, where he just goes on an absolute rampage and just destroys the Resistance. That corridor scene.
And honestly, for me, I kind of want to see this like half-masked Kylo Ren. Like, I don't want a new helmet for him. I want it like half shown. Something almost like a half Cobra Commander, just to cover up the scar side. Something really, because I want to see sort of a helmet with him. I don't want to see Mr. Glorious Hair Guy, because he's been through the ringer now, right? He's got his scars. And I want to see him kind of fall. I don't want him in robes. That's kind of, especially gold robes. I don't want that, at all. But I want him different. That's the thing too. I really hope, that's the kind of, the picture that came out from JJ yesterday. It looks like everyone's kind of wearing the same clothes too. I mean, Finn kind of looks like he's dressed the same. He's got a different jacket or whatever else. I really hope we get some wild changes in how these guys are dressed and how they carry themselves, because I'm hoping there's time and how they look. You know what I mean? We got that in the original trilogy. There were some really great moments where everyone looks a little bit different. You know what I mean? To a certain degree, that makes sense. It stands out, where you can get these really great toys and figures and things that are big differences. There wasn't much Kylo Ren difference from, first movie to the second movie. He took off his helmet. There's a scar. Minor stuff with a cape, and that's it. I want something more dramatic for him. You know what I mean? He should be, and then it's almost like it's too. But again, it was the next day. You know what I mean? There really isn't. You don't have a chance to do it, and that's the danger of doing something the next day in the crawl. People don't even have a change of clothes. They're wearing pretty much what they wore last time. I think all of us have high expectations. It's going to be a fun year following this. Hopefully the leaks don't get too damaging, but I hope there's some, right, to keep the buzz going up until December, because it's a long, we've got a long way to go. We got a year and a half. That's a long time. And to think about it, this is our first discussion with opening of principal photography. What are we going to be talking about a year and a half from now before the movie comes out? You know what I mean? So we'll have Resistance at that time. I think we might get the opening of Jon Favreau's new series by the end, right before the movie comes out. So it looks like to me, and I really had to do some soul searching after the last episode where I kind of crapped on Lucasfilm a little bit, but it looks like we're going to live in this Resistance area for a little bit, because the parks are, they're designed after it. Favreau's series might be designed after it. We have an animation series that's going to be living in that space. So we might be here for a while. And who knows, maybe the Game of Thrones guys in their series of films, maybe they don't happen in the past, or maybe they happen right here in this Resistance, field too. We don't know. Even Rian Johnson, for all we know, everyone says it's going to be new and different. Odds are it probably will be. But you know what I mean? In probably a different time. But we'll see. Right? We'll definitely see. Do you guys have anything more to add?
Is it wrong that I'm more excited for Clone Wars than I am 9 right now?
It's tough, because that's what we've seen. We've seen more of that than we've seen of 9 so far, so it's easy to get excited about that. And it's definitely, for me, I know Clone Wars was a very positive experience, and so I think that's, with all the drama and fandom after Episode 8, I think it's one of those things that's a palate cleanser for a lot of folks, so it's just a general positive thing that a lot of people can get excited about.
To me, it's going to be a lot of content for the new service, and it allows them to pitch something for the new streaming service. It's There are going to be a lot of adults that sign up to the Disney streaming service just for those 12 episodes. You know what I mean? To get it kicked off. And it's not a bad thing. I mean, in my piece that I wrote on Friday before I got bushwhacked by Lucasfilm with the casting announcement, where I put everything out on paper, that, you know, we have to live in this new era. That whatever era is coming out with the films, that all the focus should be on that, whether it's in books, comics, animation. It should all be there to support the new era that we're in. And I think the new trilogy really wasn't helped at all by any of the other platforms. It stood by itself. We didn't know anything before anything came out on the movies first. And I think that kind of does a disservice where, you know, we wanted more about the Resistance. We got the Clone Wars. We wanted more about Kylo. We get Thrawn. You know, it always seems to keep bouncing around to, well, we can't talk about that stuff until the movie comes out, so we're going to go ahead and take you someplace else. It's like, I'm really here and now, you know? And I think we might get lucky. I think there was a rumor today on Twitter that one of the artists and writers said that he was working on a Kylo comic. I'm still trying to track that down, if that's actually a thing. So in a year and a half, a lot of stuff can come out. We can get a Kylo Ren novel. We can get some stuff that might be coming and supporting. Do I think we will? No. Am I hoping? Yeah. Because there should be. I mean, if you're going to end the Skywalker Saga right, I would put all cylinders, everything working to try to add to that, to make sure people get answers questioned. They get, I mean, because if you don't want to spend time in the film talking about, you know, one of the, you know, things you want to wrap up from The Force Awakens, do it in a book, do it in a comic, get it out before the movie and wrap it up so then people can enjoy the last film and finish. I think that's an important thing that I hope, and you know, I hope my piece that Lucasfilm read it. Now, you know, guys, we got a year and a half. Maybe Max is right. We can do a couple of these things to answer some questions, so JJ doesn't have to. Because if you don't support it, then regular folks are going to be expecting the director to shoulder all those answers, and that's not fair to Ryan. That's not fair to JJ, because I have a story to tell. I don't have time to give you back, you know, lore and backstory, because there's no time in my film to do that. It'll ruin my story. So that's what it takes for the other platforms to kind of jump in and do that work. And hopefully we see that. I really do. Because, I mean, you have a year and a half, you can get a lot done. You really can. All right, guys, so I think we pretty much wrapped up this show. I think we're good. So, guys, well, of course, from all you know, we've been having the show now once a week, and we're going to continue doing that. I think it's a lot more fun, and we're around. So, guys, thanks for joining us tonight, guys. As always, don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes and also on YouTube. Don't forget to rate us, too, and give us a positive feedback and a thumbs up. It matters a lot. So with that, guys, have a great evening. We'll see you guys on the flip side.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Star Wars Post livecast. Please subscribe, rate, and review our livecast on YouTube, Facebook, and iTunes. And don't forget to get all your Star Wars news, reviews, features, and more at thestarwarspost.com. The galaxy at your fingertips. Good night, and may the Force be with you.